You may have noticed here at home, we have an energy crisis in the United States and across Europe right now, largely of our own and Europeans' own making, right? This dependence, 40% of all gas dependent on Russian exports. And they've known about this for years. I mean, they've had decades now to move away from dependency on Russian oil. And now oil prices, and they didn't, by the way, oil prices have now skyrocketed to their highest levels in 10 years over the supply that could dry up thanks to Russia, one of the biggest oil exporters. Nancy Pelosi yesterday said, I support us banning imports of Russian oil. It's amazing. We're like, hey, we're fine to still take your imports, but we're going to ban you from everything else. We're still fine to take your oil.
Yes.
But we're going to ban you from everything else.
And now we're being warned that this will continue to exacerbate the inflation rates, right? Fed Chief Jerome Powell says, well, we thought inflation was probably going to taper off. This has been the big story during the pandemic. But now, because of this conflict, that might last a little bit longer. Recently, we spoke to Carol Roth, the author of the book, The War on Small Business, and she said, this is the government showing us that their decisions have consequences, but pretending that they don't, right? So inflation now, they're saying, oh, well, this is because of Ukraine, not because of their, sort of free fall spending, not because of anything that has happened inside monetary policy, which perverts free market forces. But no, now it's Ukraine, which is interesting.
Right. And we were told that we would have to shoulder this burden, right? Remember, we heard from President Biden and then, of course, Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris this morning has been basically put on point now. She is basically leading this effort to try to rein in Russia, to be the voice of reason throughout the world. This is what Kamala Harris, of course, told us that we were going to have to do a few days ago, right? She told us on energy, like, this is what's going to happen. We have to be prepared because we're supporting this democracy in Ukraine, that you at home need to be prepared to pay more for gasoline.
The president has already said Americans will be facing some economic fallout or some hardships. Can you explain to Americans what exactly will they face if this happens?
Sure. As the president talked about in his speech, we are aware that, again, when America stands for her principles and all of the things that we hold dear, it requires sometimes for us to put ourselves out there in a way that maybe we will incur some cost. And in this situation, that may relate to energy costs, for example.
Okay, I mean,
Jen Psaki said pretty much the same thing.
Right, they're all in line now with this,
Well, because what she's saying, she's assuming that we have all agreed now to take sides in this conflict, and we've agreed that it will cost us in terms of our own consumables, and we have collectively agreed to pay more for it because we are collectively standing for our principles. Now, I understand that is the nature of representative democracy, right? You voted for us, we say this. So therefore, by your vote, you say this too. So what she's trying to tell us is, you agreed to this. You already did.
Right. As Lita Westcott in our chat says, Kamala, what exactly is it that you guys hold dear? Right. Like what? So what we're saying is, we hold what dear? We hold this version, this puppet, this quote unquote democracy in Ukraine dear? We hold, what exactly are we holding?
Well, I remind you, though, that we already had agreed in 1994 to help Ukraine in the event of an attack. This was part of an alliance, right? This was an agreement. If we wanted to break this agreement, we should have what? Elected politicians who said they would?
Part of the agreement was a ceasefire in the Donbas region. Hey, by the way, we will support and make sure that if you are de-arming, getting rid of nuclear weapons, we will support you. This ceasefire, though, where you continue to kill innocent people in Donetsk and Luhansk region of Donbass and killing upwards of 14,000 people, that has got to stop. That never stopped. So you're killing ethnic Russians. What do you think is going to happen? You're continually calling upon NATO. You want to join NATO, and then the United States government, Kamala Harris comes out last week and specifically says, we are encouraged to support Vladimir Zelensky because we want him to join NATO. We support him wanting to join NATO. Wait a second. That's not in their constitution. They're not joining NATO. So what you're telling Vladimir Putin is, hey, go ahead now. Like, here, just walk across the border now.
Yeah.
You're supporting them joining NATO. I mean, this is what Kamala Harris said in her meetings with these NATO leaders, and this is ridiculous. This is exactly what she shouldn't have said. By the way, if you go and try to read this on the White House website of her meeting, it's not there. It's been removed. The readout of Vice President Harris's calls with these European, it's like they removed it. Her calling attention to Zelensky wanting to join NATO has been removed from the remarks. Like, she's in charge now. Like, she's basically leading our charge on all of this.
You know, this just makes me think that the rest of us have to really have a diversification, not only of like where we live, what we own, what our assets are. I know we talk a lot about the book Nomad Capital, or Nomad Capitalism. Nomad Capital. I'm sorry.
The Nomad Capitalist.
The Nomad Capitalist. But I mean, this is exactly why people diversify their passports, diversify their assets, and think about living a life where you are less dependent on things that the government must procure for your life. There's nothing you can do about gas prices if you haven't switched to sustainable energy, right? You are always going to be at the mercy of politics, always, forever. There's nothing you can do about getting food if you don't grow your own food, right? And all of us are in this place now. It's like they have us by the balls. Can I say balls?
You just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can say
Balls
balls.
are okay,
Balls
right?
are fine.
The
Balls
cojones.
Balls are fine. But meanwhile, people at home are paying, I mean, you're paying through the balls right now, $5 a gallon gas. I mean, and it's going to get worse, guys. It's going to get worse, because if Nancy Pelosi says we are fine to ban the import of oil from Ukraine or from Russia, then what? Then what happens? To me, it also promulgates this idea that now we've got all of this money going towards infrastructure and solar and wind and renewables. Like, it's perfect timing, right? It's a perfect storm, because now gas prices are. This is why you're going to hear from the Biden administration now more and more. And I'm all for renewables. But using this war, using what's happening here as an escalation of why at home now we need to be spending billions of dollars funneling it towards renewables and solar projects. This should have been happening years ago.
Of course, but you know, what is it? The Winston Churchill quote is like, Americans don't do anything until they absolutely have to.
They don't do anything. They won't do the right thing. Americans will eventually do the right thing when they've exhausted all other options.
Yes.
Like that was Winston Churchill, right?
But that's kind of human nature, don't you think?
I don't know. I guess I don't know. But hey, I just want to say,
not everybody is a Virgo.
You know, it's in this whole situation is not easy to explain. Thank goodness, though, we have our new leader, Kamala Harris, to explain all of this for us. Like, she breaks down exactly what's going on. This is the confidence we have in this leader right now and what's going on in Ukraine and Russia.
Break it down in layman's terms for people who don't understand what's going on and how can this directly affect the people of the United States.
So Ukraine is a country in Europe. It exists next to another country called Russia. Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country called Ukraine. So basically, that's wrong.
Thank you. Thank you, Kamala. I just want you, I mean, you don't need our show. You need Commander Kamala to explain and break down the ridiculousness and how complicated everything is right now in this. And just also the idea that Russia is a bigger country. Russia is a powerful country. Russia decided to invade a smaller country. That's it. And that's wrong.
Well,
that's it. That's the bottom line. No more details needed on this.
Okay,
And
what
look
about
at,
our
like,
colonies? That okay?
Yeah, exactly. What she's saying is basically, you know, what are American values? It's like, that's basically calling for American supremacy is basically what she's calling for. Like, we are the best. Our virtues are the best. We have the best intentions for the whole entire world. So if you don't share our values, we will invade you. We will, you know, bomb you and all that other stuff. So American values, they're coming for you. And there's somebody in chat that said that I'm anti-American. I am not anti-American. I'm anti-military and needlessly killing people around the world for what? The war on quote unquote terror. You know, right. I'm like the furthest thing from anti-American. It doesn't make me anti-American to question the government.
Yeah, I feel
this country
like
was founded on questioning your government.
But
right?
patriotism is a fundamental division of humanity. So, like, what do you need to say in order to prove that you love other humans? Or do you want to say words that mean you only love humans with an American passport, or you only support what your government is doing, right?
I think nationalism. I think it's nationalism. I think nationalism is dangerous.
I do too.
It's very, very dangerous.
I am not interested in showing to anybody how connected I am to any one country. If you're here for that, you don't need to be.
Right. Like I'm only supportive of this country, and that's fine. Like you wear your flag, you do your thing, but at the expense of other countries. Then no one. Thank you.
No one seems to be able to just like look at this from a very basic standpoint. Look at this like if the same thing was going on in Mexico, if Mexico sided with Russia and then Russia came in, they built a base on the border. You know, there were neo-Nazis down there that were saying, you know, hey, with the United States, they're a big danger. They're bombing the rest of the world. We really need to come together and surround this country because they're dangerous. What would we do? Like, people don't seem to think about like looking at it and under that lens. We would, tell me what you think we would do.
Yeah,
in that situation.
I think that maybe a lot of times people think in order to be patriotic, you have to accept what your government does and support your military. You can support your military without having to support what they have to do, right? Military families sacrifice, they're brave, they have all, you can support them, at the same time feel empathy that they are, that they have to do something that you don't agree with. That can still be patriotism if patriotism is your value. Yeah. But I think that any kind of divisive thing like this is just silly. You know, we should be rooting for humans at this point, not any one country. And we miss the mark when we're thinking about which leader is, you know, sexier or more heroic or the better person or younger, more photogenic or whatever. People are being hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I definitely wouldn't want our American values spread across the world because we see what it does.
Yeah. If you like this content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Also, we have a membership program. For the price of a cup of coffee once a month, you can support independent journalism just by going to morninginvest.com/join.
You get access to exclusive videos, plus the ability to join and chat with us live. We really appreciate your subscription, and you are supporting independent journalism.